let's start in Washington, D.C., where the fourth Powering Africa Summit is taking place. The event showcases trade and infrastructure investment opportunities across the continent. Stakeholders from both the American and African public and private sectors are taking a part. Well, Daniel Winges now joins us in Washington with more on today's sessions. Daniel, welcome to the show. Now, we saw last year's meeting saw hundreds of investors from across the world basically presenting energy projects and investment opportunities from the continent. Are we seeing this year's summit building on that?
The change that we're seeing is not to do with the investors and their intent, but more to do with their perception of the Trump administration. It was early days, remember, when this last Powering Africa Summit took place. And there was a lot of uncertainty about the direction that President Trump would take in terms of supporting projects and investment agencies that provide loan guarantees, loans themselves, and all kinds of technical expertise. But what we're hearing from this year's Powering Africa Summit is that the Trump administration essentially has found its footing in this space and is willing to move forward.
Now, Daniel, a number of major developments have already taken place in Africa's power sector over the last 2 to 3 years, which of course signals growing optimism for power projects on the continent in 2018. So give us a sense of what the key focus was at this year's summit.
Well, the renewables again is a key focus. And the main reason for that is that governments are keenly aware that in areas where they just can't stretch a grid, and in hard to reach areas, and in areas that are less resource rich, they need to find these off-grid solutions, including solar, wind and the like. And those off-grid solutions can vary in size. There's a lot more adaptability being talked about in terms of, very small to fairly large community-based projects. But I think probably behind the scenes, the major talking point here is not so much the actual generation of electricity this year, but the practicalities of getting it to the homes of people in urban and semi-rural areas within a grid structure. And then the last sort of few feet, as it were, to the homes of individuals. And we were hearing, for example, about a smart meter project that has been initiated here in Washington, D.C. by a company that provides very low-income families with the ability to use their phones and to adapt and to bring those electricity resources into their homes. So I think many of the governments that are coming from Africa, the US-based investors here, that they would like to see much more of the kind of detailed technical support to ensure that electricity gets to the right homes.
Now, of course, Daniel, the discussion also included U.S. competitiveness in Africa, especially in the power sector, as you mentioned earlier. What exactly is this new administration's plans for Africa in this area?
Well, as you know, President Barack Obama initiated the Power Africa idea, and today US officials called it Power Africa 2.0. And I was trying to talk to some of those officials behind the scenes to get a sense of what they think Power Africa 2.0 looks like. I think that they are now confident that they will have the political backing and indeed the financial backing to support US companies going into Africa, some of whom will be doing so tentatively and need some of those guarantees that the US government provides, some of the guarantees indeed from those countries that need these projects. So I think what I'm hearing from them is that actually they're putting a lot of the politics aside and going for a lot of the practicalities. What areas can US companies really shine? On a country-by-country basis, because every country has its own challenges and own specific energy mix details, as you know, Uche. It's a complex area. So I think I got the sense that the US government really rolling its sleeves up and saying, okay, let's get on with it. Perhaps we're not going to be as ambitious as we perceive that to be in Power Africa 1.0, but in 2.0 we're certainly going to be as useful and smart as we can in adapting to the different contexts in the different African countries.
Now, Daniel, you mentioned renewable projects growing on the continent and certainly new technology in the energy sector. These are some key discussions taking place at the summit. Now, as we head into tomorrow, what are the expectations in terms of key topics?
Well, I think renewables certainly is going to continue to be a very, very important part of the mix. You know, Elon Musk's company was here. You know that they're a big player in the battery field and that they want to provide that ability to use solar power more efficiently and more sustainably, so there's not that variation in power that comes and goes, whether there's a cloud in the sky or the different seasonal variations. So, you know, I think renewables is going to continue to be an area that the US government can provide some expertise and connect these different countries up with the private sector here, with some of the actors. Also, there's a recognition that we're not going to be able to achieve the kind of, you know, wide coverage that we need, particularly in urban and suburban areas of Africa that are the growing areas, where you will need to have some more conventional solutions. You know, the exploitation of natural gas is a big thing. And then from a broader energy perspective, how you begin to be smarter about your petroleum reserves. So, for example, the Ugandan Minister of Energy was here saying we are ready to work with GE, the US company, to really begin to add value to our petroleum product going forward with excellent refining products. So there's a lot of very smart thinkers out here thinking about different and diverse strategies to ensure that energy gets to the right homes and also to the businesses and manufacturing that will be needed to bring that extra value and development to Africa.
Well, many thanks as always, Daniel, for your insights. Daniel Ringes joining us there in Washington.